and you agree the most important thing is non-violence. So you agree never to hit, attack, bite, or pull each other's hair. You agree never to swear at each other, never to steal from each other, never to defame each other. Whereas this stuff goes on in marriages all the time, and I'm saying that's wrong. Let's have, the statistics of wife beating and sexual abuse that are going on, it's normally done in domestic partners doing it. Well, that's all outlawed in a wisdom affair. You can't do that. It's about equality between men and women. You respect and love each other, and you bring out the best in each other. So it's actually, what I'm saying in wisdom affair is actually sort of like the real McCoy.
Yes.
This is what we should be doing as a planet. Yeah.
And you said that the purpose of a wisdom affair is to work towards enlightenment and spiritual development, but I suppose as a young person watching this, they might ask, well, why should we actually care about enlightenment, or why enlightenment? Why do we want that?
Well, if it was a young person in my class, I'd send them an essay on that title. That's a great essay. You go away and think about it and research it. There are many different types of enlightenment, and the word has different meanings in different languages. I'm teaching a course about the nature of enlightenments, plural, at the moment, because I've written the first book in the world's history called Enlightenments, plural. And I'm saying let's have a new academic field of study about comparing and contrasting different types of enlightenment. Enlightenment's got many different meanings. The Latin word is eruditio, which we have as erudition. So in Latin thinking, enlightenment was a certain type of intellectual who was very erudite.
Okay.
You'd say that's an enlightened person. From that has come down the the European idea of the Enlightenment, when suddenly you had Voltaires and people popping up who were very learned, and they created an opposition to the old style religious warfare approach to life. No, let's study and be enlightened instead. Kant, popped up. And so, and Goethe and the whole thing. So I'm also with that. I'm with that Enlightenment tradition. Then slightly later we had the impulse from the East. We had Buddhist sutras being translated, in which the idea of enlightenment was then seen as the leading intellectual idea behind one of the biggest religions in the history of the world. That you could reach this internal state of enlightenment, which means a state of inner peace and calm. Nirvana being a kind of transcending of ego and all the anxieties that's caused by. So I think put the Western idea of enlightenment and the Eastern one together, and that's something worth going for as a planet. I would advocate collective enlightenment of the planet, beyond the egotistical, my religion's better than yours, or my nation's better than yours, Brexit type nonsense. Let's sublimate all our frustrated egotisms towards the collective common project of enlightenment. And I would even say that communism was a sort of first promise of that, but off in the wrong direction. In my critique of Marx, he was nearly enlightened, but he left out Geist, he left out spirit. It's like he got this brilliant car going, communism, and he forgot to put the petrol in, which is Geist, which came from Hegel. Poor old Marx he forgot the petrol. So what we've had is a whole bunch of crashes, Maoism, Stalinism, all that.
It only had 2 wheels, perhaps.
It also maybe only had 2 wheels, So we need to put the Enlightenment back into that whole communist project as well. And then it would, you see, Enlightenment's the antidote to violence. If you look at the great sages of history, the truly enlightened ones, they always advocate non-violence, like Buddha, like Mahavira, like Jesus, like Mahatma Gandhi and George Fox and Christ, And that's why I've done my Universal Encyclopedia of Saints and Sages. That's another book I've been working on, is to kind of bring out the enlightened traditions within all these lineages. Which I use in daily puja. We do a daily puja here.
Where is it?
Oh, it's in the ethers. Okay. You can find it on the internet, this stuff. Yeah.
In bookshops soon, near you.
So, I hope that answers your question, because it's a really important question. Why should we bother with enlightenment? It's like, I hope people will get this, that it actually is really important.
Yes.
And the only alternative is self-destruction and the mass destruction of the planet. You know, and I think it's our human duty to pursue enlightenment because we're supposed to be Homo sapiens. It's, you know, sapiens is another word for enlightenment. In effect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Choose enlightenment.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, the final questions I had were about your vision for the world and life philosophy, but in a way I feel like you kind of pretty much answered that there. But I suppose any final thoughts on regarding those? The vision for the world and life philosophy?
Well, you know, the vision of the world is what is unfolding. I trust the world. I love the world, Gaia. I'm a Taurian. I'm a lover of nature. That's why I love the sciences and why I love... one of my partners was a relative of Charles Darwin. I personally prefer Alfred Russel Wallace. I believe in evolution and the life force, the libido that brought us all here. It will solve these problems like global warming. And if we unleash the power of intellect and true thought, we can solve these problems. We can tap into gravity and other alternative technologies, which is what I set up the Global Green University for. And we do, you know, a program of earth-centered, earth-focused, eschatological, planetary healing.
Okay.
You know, so I believe in life. It will sort out its problems. And what is my philosophy of life? Well, you know, that's why I did the periodic table of the world's religions, is to think that through. Because I'm a specialist in all world religions. I believe that it's necessary that we all collaborate together. I'm an interfaith expert. I've been to conferences in the Vatican and Venice and, you know...
House of Lords, wasn't it?
Yeah, I ran 30 meetings in the House of Lords in the UK, looking at ethics and policy on peace. So I think it's important we all work together as one planet. So I call myself a Meta-Mahayana practitioner. When I was young, I took the Buddhist Bodhisattva vows to reach collective enlightenment for all mankind this lifetime. Well, I don't think, I've thought this through logically, I don't think that means converting everyone to Buddhism. That'd be stupid. It's not going to happen, but it's stupid. The word Buddha means intellectual, enlightened. We can convert everyone to becoming an intellectual of an enlightened variety. And my view is you can stay in your religion. So you can stay a Sunni Muslim or a Sufi, or you can stay a Shinto priest, or you can stay a Taoist or a Zoroastrian or whatever, but become an intellectually enlightened version of it. And that the path to enlightenment is open in all these traditions, you know, and that's why I did this table. So I call myself a Meta-Mahayana practitioner because I want collective enlightenment so badly that I want to authorize it from whichever lineage you're working within, Sufi, Islamic, or Kabbalistic, Jewish, or whatever. So you've got all the different types of paths here. They're all vehicles, yanas. So this is a Mahayana, Meta-Mahayana, they're all vehicles. And I had a very good friend, one of my students, Shirley Touré, who was a Catholic woman in London, used to come to my classes for many years. And then she went to live at Sami Ling, the Tibetan Buddhist centre in Scotland. She ended up running the retreat centre on Holy Island, which is a little retreat island off the Isle of Arran. She invited me up to come and teach a course there. And she told me her bishop, who was the Catholic Bishop of London, had authorised her to go and explore Tibetan Buddhism.
Really?
Yeah, had said, that's fine, you go and throw yourself into that as deep as you want, and you'll still be a good Catholic girl. You know?
Good man.
And that's Shirley Touré, who's now dead. Her ashes are in the place at Sami Ling where you do the wheel prayers. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. That's a Meta-Mahayana position. You know. Another guy that practiced that was Dom Sylvester Huedar, a great Catholic monk of Prinash Abbey, who I met, friend of Allen Ginsberg, and he was very much into the Sufi tradition. He was an expert on Meister Eckhart. And that led me to creating a conference at Prinash Abbey in '91 called Spiritual Resources for Peace and Justice. and I had Sufis and New Age and Buddhists, and that's where I met my Druid friend Douglas Lyne for the first time. So to me, these are all vehicles, and so through scholarship, this is why Trinity is so important, and Oxford and Cambridge and all the other great universities in the world. We have to do our homework and oppose this bigoted me versus them type of thinking. No, we're all in this together. We need to work for planetary salvation and planetary enlightenment, and through higher education, that is the most sacred way that I know. What I call intellecting, which was Abelard's verb. He wrote a book called On Intellecting, which is like the verb of thinking deeply. So there we are, that's my summary, I think.
And perhaps maybe you could say that this isn't just a normal scientific periodic table, this is a periodic table of the world's religious traditions and global philosophies.
It's
not just Mendeleev's chemical.
No, it's inspired by Mendelev's idea to unify the knowledge we have of the physical elements. But I'm saying let's study the metaphysical elements of man's culture and religious and philosophical traditions. So I've created this table, which is on its website. It's got its own website, and you can get the poster. So I'd love Trinity to get the table in poster format in its philosophy, scientific and humanities classrooms and stuff. And every university in the world, should get a copy of it. Because I'd like it to become as common as Mendelev's table. I think it's as important, in fact.
Perhaps maybe I had a thought we could put some links for our website, which we've mentioned in this interview, in the link of the description, perhaps. It goes up on YouTube or wherever else.
Good. Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your interview.
Yes.
And thanks again for coming from Ireland. Give my love to the old country.
I will. Yeah.
And
looking forward to going back again.
and enjoy Rome. I think you're going to have a great pilgrimage and an explore there. Can I just finish with one last little story?
Of course.
One of my intellectual heroes is an English king called King Alfred the Great, who was the most learned king of England. He's from Wessex. And he went to Rome on pilgrimage with his dad. It was never expected he would become king. And his three elder brothers all died in battle, so he did eventually become king at quite a young age.
Okay.
And he was very successful because he used his classical knowledge, he read Latin and stuff, to win battles against the marauding Danes. He had a friend called Asa, who was Bishop of St. David's. And Asa and him had correspondence on spiritual matters. Asa was obviously a Christian. Aelfred meant he who takes advice from the elves, which is quite a ancient Anglo-Saxon concept for a spiritual being or an elf that you get in Lord of the Rings. Anyway, Alfred wrote a letter to his advisor, Asa, saying, I'm always too busy as a king. I have to fight battles, I have to give judgments, I have to sort out problems, I have to found monasteries. I never have time to do all the reading I want.
Oh, yes.
Is there going to be a library in heaven, Asa? Now, I love that letter, which is a true letter, its extent. And Asa wrote back and said, Dear King Alfred, I'm sure if there isn't a library already in heaven, there will be made one for you, especially when you get there. Now, when I read that letter, I fell in love with it. It was at the University of Worcester, where I was doing some work at the time. And, I think, to me, heaven is like a place where all scholarship is encouraged. It's like the University of Oxford Library times a million, or the Vatican Library, which I'm a reader for. And I'd like to build that on Earth. That's what I've tried to do in my little scholarly centre here, which people can come to on retreat. But in the Heavenly Library, they'll have all the lost works, what went up in smoke in Alexandria, or the lost books of Aristotle, or Poseidonius's work on the Celts, and so on. So, so if anyone enjoyed this interview and you want to meet me in the afterlife, just ask for the library. you know, if we don't meet in this life, I'll be in the heavenly library and happy to carry the conversation on.
I think you've done a very good job here already with the works that can be found here. And, hopefully this interview can contribute to what we spoke about collective enlightenment for humanity.
That's the aim.
Benefit.
Well, thanks so much, Ciaran. Bless you. And thanks to all the people that are working with you. And good luck with your degree.
Thank you.
It's very important. Take it seriously and enjoy it, because true knowledge is a pleasure. You know, it's the Spinoza said, intellectual love of God is the highest form of pleasure, and so, you know, that's what we're doing here.
Very good.
Okay.
Let's end it there.